Have you ever become spitting angry? I'm not talking about violent, just the raw emotion. Drop a lightning flash in the comment if you have. For decades, my answer would have been no. I was the quiet, peaceful one. But without my anger, I don't think I would have ever escaped my abusive marriage. And just last week, my anger showed up in a meeting with some politicians, and they were dodging questions about healthcare reform, even though patient safety was at risk. I became angry and I let it be known. Today, I want to talk about anger in living, in healing, and in everyday life, and how accepting it saved me. I'm Emma, a medical doctor and abuse survivor. Let's get into it. The other day, I took my daughter to the dentist, and in the end of the visit, they put the fluoride paste on her teeth, and she hates the taste of that. So she stomped out to the car, muttering, "Stupid dentist, I shouldn't have come." She's in contact with her anger. But for me, as a child, that would have been unthinkable. I grew up with a narcissistic mother. For me, anger was something that belonged to others, and I would flinch at the first hint of it. I avoided it. And any sign of anger inside of me, I swallowed it down, because showing anger meant inviting conflict. But the anger didn't disappear. It went into my shadow part, and it got twisted. I once met a young woman in a psychiatric ward. She had been abused as a child, and then again in a relationship. She was depressed and full of anxiety and self-hate. One of the doctors asked her, "How do you feel about your ex-husband?" And she answered, "I feel afraid and I feel disgusted with myself." And he pressed on, "But how do you feel about him?" Blank stare. She couldn't feel it. The anger had been turned inward. That moment stayed with me, because that was me too, unable to direct anger where it belonged. The first moments of my anger resurfacing was as protective anger. In 2017, after having been betrayed postpartum, I started to get some moments of feeling angry. But since I was trained to avoid anger because anger meant escalating conflict, it felt dangerous to express it, so I pushed it down. And instead I had to deal with excruciating anxiety, panic attacks. I felt trapped and tormented. But sometimes anger would break through in a short moment, and then I would apologize. Until the 5th of November 2023, when it could no longer be contained. And I became so angry that it made me fearless. This time it didn't make me shrink. And I was able to leave my abuser without feeling empathy or getting stuck, fearing the consequences of my actions. My anger made me reckless, and it also set me free. Anger can be part of grief as well. Elisabeth Kubler-Ross, who named the 5 stages of grief, named anger as the third stage. And about a year after I left, I went through this stage. For the first time, I wasn't anxious, sad, or fearful, sad. I was really, really angry. And that went on it was more than a month, where I would, when the kids were asleep, I would cut up old photos, from the time before we had our children. And I would, under my breath, mutter a little wish that he would go bald for all the pain that he had caused me and was continuing to cause me, as I had to relocate and build a life in a place where I knew no one. But after going through that angry stage, when I was able to release that anger, then came a different sort of sadness than I had experienced before. And eventually that led to acceptance and me having grieved the loss of my marriage and the dream of that relationship and him loving me. And I was able to let it go. But anger was essential for me to be able to complete that cycle. If you can't feel the anger, then you will not be able to complete the grieving process. So, is anger good or bad? It depends. Healthy anger is there to protect us, set boundaries, fuel justice, and process loss. Toxic anger controls, intimidates, punishes, or rages when ego is threatened. My mother's narcissistic rage taught me to fawn and suppress my own anger to protect myself. Her anger wasn't healthy. It was used to control me. But why are narcissists so angry? There are several reasons. First, black and white thinking. They see themselves as perfect. So if you point out even a small flaw, admitting to that would mean to admit that they are not perfect, and that would be unbearable. So your feedback or wanting to communicate something feels to them like an attack on their entire identity, and they rage to protect that identity. That is ego-driven rage. Anger is used as a shield. It dismisses your opinion and it restores the balance with them being superior to you. The second reason has to do with where self-esteem comes from. A healthy person, first of all, has a stable core, something that they got from their upbringing. A sense of being valuable, just as they are. Healthy self-esteem comes partly from that inner sense of being valuable and partly from your ability to function in the world. Narcissists lack that inner core. And instead of building abilities, they collect property, money, status symbols, people who serve them, help them, and admire them. That's where you come in. Your gifts, they don't see them as gifts. They view them as part of their property. Your admiration, your services, your money, it all fuels their sense of self. So if you pull back your time, your help, or praise, they see it as an attack on the very foundation that builds their self-esteem, and they react by raging at you because they feel entitled to have those things. But let's be honest, none of us are immune to ego anger. When my kids misbehave in public, sometimes I get angry because of fear of other people judging me as a bad mother. That is ego anger, and it's not fair to direct it at them. So I repair, apologize, and try to do better, because I know what that kind of anger comes from. And here's something important. I give you permission to be angry. It's okay, but you have to express it safely. And we will talk about that. How do you express anger in a healthy way? For example, if someone criticizes you again unfairly after you have asked them to stop, healthy anger would say, "That's enough, stop picking on me. I don't need you to boss me around," and leave the room. Toxic anger, slamming plate, insulting, accusing them of something else, or trying to start a fight. Example 2, feeling angry at your ex. Healthy anger punches pillows in private, or mutters starkly that I hope his hairline recedes. Toxic anger, raging at your kid because they remind you of their father. The point is this: anger should not be used to attack or hurt others. Anger can also be a signal of overwhelm. If you're struggling with mental fatigue or burnout, or if you're in an extremely stressful situation, your conscious brain can be overloaded, and you then go into using the more primitive functions in the brain, and that makes it easier to resort to anger to solve the problem. If this happens to you, if you get angry because you're overloaded or stressed out, it's not your fault. It's almost impossible to contain this feeling if you stay in that situation. But what I would like you to do is to remove yourself. Stop doing the thing that you are doing and try to remove yourself and calm down, sit down for a bit and breathe. So how about you? Does your anger go underground or burst out sideways or show up of nowhere? Don't be ashamed. Anger is human. It's a signal, and sometimes it's the very thing that saves us. Share your story in the comments. Your story might help someone else see their anger in a different light. And I have a video about the connection between narcissistic abuse and burnout. I would recommend that you watch it if you recognize yourself in the overwhelm, angry situation. I am Emma, holding up light over the bridge. See you in the next video.